You're listening to the Girl Dad Show.
Welcome to Season 3 of The Girl Dad Show, where we explore the intersection of parenthood and entrepreneurial spirit. Join me and some incredible guests as we share tips and tricks for finding work-life balance and making a positive impact not only on the world, but also our families. Let's create a fulfilling life together. It's The Girl Dad Show, Season 3. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of The Girl Dad Show. Today is another Girl Dad Talk, where I talk to you about my parenting journey and my progression in between amazing interviews with awesome and incredible guests that are building life and career. And today I want to talk to you a little bit about overcoming fear. And it's fairly timely as it is now Halloween. And as we head into the spookiest day of the year, I thought it would make a lot of sense to talk about combating fear, both as a parent, but also as a professional. I think that there is a lot of corollaries as it relates to fears that we face as children and as we face as parents for our kids. And then obviously as we embark on our professional careers, whether it's building business or navigating the current economic climate, it's a really tumultuous time. And I think everything comes into really hyper focus on holidays like this as we think about decorating our house. And we start to think about all the spooky costumes we're going to wear. And our kids are getting a little bit more older. And so they're getting a little bit more involved in the Halloween concept and understanding that there are some elements of fear and being scared inside of there. But more than Halloween, although it is very, very spooky and decorating can be spooky, we have a lot more spookier decorations this year than we have in the past as our kids are getting older. What I really want to talk about is this concept of fear as a professional. It's been a really, really strange few years, to say the least, but it has been incredibly strange over the last few months. I believe that, it's safe to say that the entire economy has been slowing down a little bit in very weird ways, where it's hard to find good talent, but it's also very hard to find good customers and money flow. It's all kind of constricting, but also at the same time not. I think it has a lot to do with the inflation rates and companies starting to lay people off. And then that has a cycle effect of not being able to churn more money into the economy. And it just keeps cycling and cycling. And I don't foresee it getting better anytime soon. And it comes with that a lot of fear. And so over the last month or so, I've experienced quite a few business owners contacting me, talking to me about the potential possibility of having to shut down their business. And it is incredibly scary to think about, stopping your livelihood and stopping your passion, and also figuring out what that process looks like, because it's very real right now for a lot of people. And it's been a lot more real for me in just the volume of business owners that I now talk to with the Startup Owners Club, and just me getting out there, like meeting business owners on a more active scale. I just am exposed to more business owners, and the quantity of business owners now very, very afraid of their business and their livelihood is definitely high, and it is growing. Not to say that there isn't ways to navigate this and hunker down and thrive in this situation. And there are plenty of businesses that are thriving now as well too. But it's been really interesting to talk to people about this concept of fear, right? Because it's really, really hard to tell someone that is in a state of fear to, think about this logically and pragmatically, right? And how to figure out ways to survive and also thrive. And it's a very, very troubling time for this person when they're scared of what the unknown is and what the future holds, especially when things don't work the way they used to. And it came into really clear focus for me when I was talking to my daughter about riding her bike. And I know it's a really simple example on a very complex problem, but I'm not really here to talk to you about what the economy is doing or what that looks like if you're getting laid off or all those things. I'm more just talking about the fear of the unknown. And I also have a lot of fear right now because a lot of my businesses are struggling as well. And a lot of my businesses are actually thriving. And so I kind of see both sides of the lens, and yet I'm still sitting here in fear because the stuff that I used to do that would work doesn't work like it used to. And so it gives me a sense of anxiety and fear. And as I think about all of this stuff, I just keep hammering my head against the wall and just trying different things and pushing forward on this. I started to really get into focus on this when I was trying to teach Lily how to ride her bike the other week. And it was a really tense moment because still has training wheels on and she wanted to bring her bike out. And I'm not really sure what prompted it because I've never really pushed it ever since she fell on her bike a couple of months ago. She got very scared of it. It scared her really bad. It hurt her really bad. And I just never pushed it. And then she out of nowhere said, "Hey, I want to ride my bike." I'm like, "Great." And so we were riding it and she was very nervous and she was very scared. And I kept, talking to her and trying to coach her through the process of, having to be okay with the bike falling over because it's not fully stable, even with training wheels. And if it does fall over, how to stop from falling over and how you can't turn sharply on a bike. You have to turn gradually or slowly and kind of navigating those things with her because she fell and she didn't want to ride it again. And, sitting there and just kind of like watching her struggle through this, being scared of falling and watching her then fall, it was a great opportunity for me to tackle that fear that she had in her and say, "Hey, like you fell and what's the worst that happened? You got back up, you have a little, bruise on your knee or a little skid on your shin, but you're fine. And you got back up and you're ready to try again." And she was. And we tried again. And fast forward to today, we went again to ride her bike in the community. And this time she was still very scared, very, very scared of riding her bike and very reticent to go fast. And now she knows how much it hurts and what happens when she falls. And so she's still trying to get all of her coordination down and trying to figure out all the mechanics of riding a bike. But, walking her through the aspect of leaning in to the bike when it wobbles. So when it starts to lean to one side, she wants to slam the brake because it's not going perfectly. It's not perfectly stable. And having to coach her through the process of like actually pedaling a little bit faster, not crazy fast, but definitely a little bit faster to create that forward momentum so that she can stabilize the bike. And telling her and trying to teach her that, staying slow or standing still is actually much harder to keep the bike in its level form. And obviously it's almost unbelievable and incredulous to think that from someone that doesn't understand it or doesn't know what a bike riding looks like. And I could see her questioning it, also being very scared of it. But after a couple of repeated assurances and prompts to try, and then also to remind her that, the worst that happens is that you fall and now you know how to catch yourself, she started to pedal into it. And you could see that her pedaling into it allowed her a little more stability and control into controlling the wobbles. And it was a really, really interesting thing because she's still very scared of it and she didn't want to ride the bike back home. So I'm not saying this was some magical cliche story where now she's overcome her fear. She's still very afraid of riding her bike, but I think it's progress, right? It's progress around the fear. This episode of The Girl Dad Show is brought to you by Owners Club. As a business owner myself, I know firsthand how challenging the journey can be. Whether it's having someone that I can ask a very tactical question to, or just being able to share my big successes without guilt. Building a business is a lonely journey, and it does not have to be. After building and coaching dozens of businesses to success, there is one insight that is so obvious and simple, yet hard to execute. And that is network equals net worth. And so if you're a growth-minded, supportive, smart, and hardworking business owner looking for a community of like-minded entrepreneurs to build with, look no further than the Owners Club. You will make lifelong friends and build your business that works for you. You can learn more online at owners.club. There's like two things that I think about when I get scared of stuff, of the unknown, and I'm afraid of stuff, One, I'm definitely afraid of heights. And I'm also afraid of heights for my kids. And it's one of those things where, like, even if Lily climbs something high, I start to get nervous and afraid, and I start to project those fears onto her. And just the other week, I had a friend named Nim that, stayed with me for the weekend, and he, opened a rock climbing gym in Hawaii, and he wanted to go rock climbing here. And so we went rock climbing, and there's one rock climbing wall that you can climb all the way to the top of, and it's a good like 15, 20 feet up, maybe. Yeah, I'd say 20 feet up. And you can climb to the top and sit on the top. And Lily wanted to do it. And I just couldn't do it. I couldn't overcome it. I couldn't overcome my fear to go with her, but she was afraid to go alone. And luckily, Nim was there, and he's like, I'll go. And he climbed up there, and then he helped her up there, and he kind of coached her along. And I was in the bottom, just ready to catch her in case something fell. And I quickly realized that I was so grateful that she wasn't looking down at me, because I was projecting so much of my fear into her. And realizing that it's so much of her fear is coming from the fear around her, and the lack of confidence that comes from, her parents. And so obviously it's still very dangerous, and I don't want her to fall and get hurt. But at the same token, I wasn't helping her climb this wall or ride this bike, but projecting my fears onto her. And so it really helped me put into focus the power I have as a parent, and how important it is that I don't fetter my kids with my insecurities and my fear. And then it kind of made me reflect on how I can start working on my fears and tackling the things that I'm scared of. And I think it really goes down to slowly putting yourself into these areas and getting more accustomed to it. Nim said something very interesting. He said, hey, if you're afraid of heights, just climb to the point where you're afraid and sit there and stay there for 5 minutes and breathe and get used to it, and then go back down. And then, maybe next week or the next day, climb up to that area again and climb a little bit further until you're feeling a little uncomfortable, and then stay there and take a couple breaths and spend a few minutes up there and soak in that level. And over time, you will naturally get more and more used to being in these stages. And it was such an obvious commentary, but it really helped me understand that fear is something that we all combat as humans. And it's something that is super, super hard, whether you're a kid trying to learn to ride your bike or climb a rock wall, or whether it's you trying to build a business with the insecurities of the economic climate, or you getting laid off from your job right now because, everyone's laying people off and you're not sure where to get work. We all live in fear, and we all have fear of the unknown, especially. But I think there's two things that are true. One is the only way to overcome the fear and start being logical and thriving in this is to, slowly start to get used to it, and put yourself in situations where you are testing your boundaries and getting more comfortable being uncomfortable. And you don't have to do these big jolts, but just programmatically start testing yourself and stretching yourself, just like learning any new skill. It's the same concept. And the second one that I learned that's the most important for me, the biggest epiphany that I've learned over the last few weeks, is as a parent, really understanding what an impact my insecurities and fears have to my kids, and just being more cognizant of it. I obviously can't stop from being scared of heights, and I can't stop it. I shouldn't say that. I'm currently unable to control my fear of heights, and I just need to be more cognizant of my facial features, the words that I use, and how I project those fears to my kids, because they're benchmarking so much off of me, and my projections can now inhibit and create their own fears. And it's something that just like really, really hit me hard. And so, one, I want to start working on my fears more tangibly, like my fear of heights. But I also want to start working more tangibly on my fear of business and the uncertainty that comes with building these businesses, and especially in this economic climate. And so really trying to get to a state of understanding that fear is a state of mind, and it is a natural physiological reaction to safety that, we've inherently we have, but also some of the stuff is psychologically that we have. And so there are ways to work through it. You don't have to perfect it or overcome it. I don't necessarily think that that's a necessity, although I think it's kind of a cool goal. But I do think that we can learn to work through it and learn to understand that we do have fear and what we're fearful of, and work on trying to abate it so that we can better project, a more wholesome and more unfettered view of the world to our kids. And also show them what it's like to work through things that you're scared of, and be an example for our kids, as it relates to, hey, I'm scared of heights, and oh wow, my lights are going in and out. It's spooky for Halloween. It's very, very scary. Now, all jokes aside, it's really important for us to try to figure out how to work through that fear and just be a part of this process of being able to self-work and develop, comfortability around your emotional state and your fear state. And so that's kind of one of the big epiphanies that I've learned over the last few weeks. And it's just so timely that it also happens to be Halloween for me to kind of talk about this all at once. But the reality is that Halloween's super fun for my kids, and they're so excited about being a witch and a mermaid and going trick-or-treating with their friends and getting candy and staying up late. So they're very, very excited about it. But I do think that this concept of fear is very, very interesting. And it is so, so timely right now as my daughter is teaching me, how afraid I am of failing right now, and how it can be very illogical and a logical emotional reaction. And so it's been a really, really great lesson for me to be a dad, teaching his daughter how to ride a bike and overcome that fear of riding that bike. And I hope that this has helped you in your parenting journey, and you also have similar stories, or you can share the same sentiment. And if you do, or have any questions or thoughts, would love to hear them in comments in the YouTube channel or on social media. And again, of course, we just appreciate any ideas or thoughts as you have experienced these things as well, of overcoming your fears. But I hope this helps you along on your journey. And thank you again for tuning in. We'll see you next time at the next episode. Thank you for listening to The Girl Dad Show. Please take a moment to follow us on social media. You can find us at The Girl Dad Show on all major platforms. We look forward to staying in touch and keeping you up to date with all the new guests that are coming out.